Hello everyone, it is Tsuki, and now we're going to talk about the healers. Yesterday I did a video covering all three of the ranged DPS. Today we're going to be talking about White Mage. If I sound like I'm a little tired and delirious, it's because I literally stayed up all night leveling Astrologian. And yeah, definitely have some thoughts on that as well as the other two healers. So let's get into it. Oh yeah, I'm not sure how long this video is going to be, but expect it to be another lengthy one. Let me adjust my mic a little bit like that. Alright, so healing in Shadowbringers. Wow. So there's a lot of kind of concern about healing kind of going into Shadowbringers, and I feel like I feel like I was just kind of mixed on that. Like I wasn't overly concerned about it, but at the same time I was kind of seeing why everyone was kind of up in arms about all those changes that we kind of were seeing with healers. A lot of the big ones were basically having our DPS spells kind of getting simplified, so that we only have one filler, one dot, one AoE. Obviously White Mage has access to a couple other things. You got your size, your Flash's Misery, but for the most part DPSing as healers has been extremely simplified, and it feels less satisfying to DPS. I definitely would say there's a lot less to kind of keep you busy when it comes to just doing your DPS rotation. When you're doing solo content, it's not very engaging. It's basically just putting up your dot and then using your glares, your broils, your malefics, and then until you need to reapply that dot. And that's basically all it is for DPSing as a healer, which isn't very fun, but it's not what we're supposed to be doing, right? We're supposed to be healing, and I feel like Square Enix is really trying to push for that, because one thing about healers coming into this expansion that was very noticeable right at the start when I started healing right away is that our healing got reduced a lot. And I mean that. If I went back, looked at old footage, looked at the stream I did like literally the night before the maintenance went down for early access patching and all that, and my heals were doing significantly more than what they did at the very start of the expansion in the exact same gear. In fact, getting to this item level, getting to like item level 440, I got Titania's weapon, got some of Innocence's that's really weird to say. I don't even know that's even something you can even say. Got some Innocence accessories. I can't get the choker to drop, and I don't want to spend totems on it. But I'm like, decent enough gear. Like, I'm not like as geared as main healers will be, but I'm fairly geared. But it feels like I'm just barely over where I was at the end of Stormblood in terms of healing, which yeah, that doesn't feel very good. When you kind of take into account the fact that we lost a lot of healing right at the start of the expansion, and the fact that everyone is getting an insane amount of more HP. Like tanks, I think tanks are rocking like 115k, maybe hitting 120k sometimes depending on food. They have a lot of HP, and I've never had my Cure 2 equivalent spells heal so little of an HP bar before. This is like a fifth, maybe even less than an HP bar now if you're healing a tank with Cure 2. And yeah, our healing is absolutely, it's gutted. It's very gutted. And I feel like that's a change that they made purposely to sort of push us to needing to heal more. When it comes to AoE spells in particular, like, very noticeable on single target, but extremely noticeable as well on AoE. Like, before, you'd be able to, like, maybe just pop an ability down, like throw down an Asylum, throw down an Indom, and throw down an Earthly Star, and you'd be good to go. But sometimes that's not nearly enough with even just AoE damage coming out in leveling dungeons. It's just it's not enough. You're gonna have to do a lot more healing. You're gonna have to actually dip into your GCDs, do some spells, because you're gonna need to heal a lot more, because your heals are doing a lot less, and everyone has a lot more HP. Like, depending on the jobs, everyone has like 25k to, you know, another 40 50k HP depending on the role they are. So yeah, everyone has more HP, we're doing less heals, that means more heals for us. On top of that, we lost a lot of things that kind of interact with increased healing. We don't have largesse anymore. uh it's still kind of in the game because it's been reworked into some abilities, but for White Mage and Astrologian in particular, those abilities come at the very end of our leveling process. They come at level 80. We get Temperance for White Mage, we get Neutral Sect for Astrologian. So we don't get those until the very end, after we've kind of leveled, which we really could have used those tools in those leveling dungeons. Trust me, it would have helped a lot. But yeah. Scholars, you kind of get yours. When do you get yours on Scholar? It's dissipation, so you kind of lose your Faerie there, but you get yours at level 60. So I actually leveled Scholar first, and it wasn't that bad. But leveling Astrologian, let me tell you, that was a nightmare. But yeah, no largesse. Convalescence is also gone. You know, I mean, you still got some things that interact with your healing. You know, I think warriors get a trait at level 78 that makes Throw Bell get that convalescence effect back. So it's kind of like a mini Defiance back in the day. The Bards has Nature's Min, which is an amazing ability that I see very little Bards actually using. Mantra is also, it's Nature's Min, but for the whole party, but I don't see any mucks anywhere, so obviously they can't be using it to help me out when I'm healing. But yeah, healing across the board is just reduced. So that's something to keep in mind if you haven't actually tried healing yet, is that your healing is going to be significantly less, or noticeably less than what it was at the end of Stormblood. And you're going to have to be putting out a lot more heals. Your heals aren't going to be as effective. Everyone's going to have more HP. It's going to be a very interesting time for you if you haven't leveled your healers yet. But yeah, just kind of have to get that out of the way. So healing, or healers, DPS capabilities, gutted a bit. Healing potencies, healing strength, gutted a little bit. So that all kind of culminates into Square Enix wants us to heal more, which, you know, fair enough. I don't want to heal any of the leveling dungeons ever again, because those were horrible experiences. I don't want to do it. Tanks just, they don't use their cooldowns properly. A lot of tanks in the Duty Finder don't use their cooldowns properly. They're holding on to their cooldowns for some reason. I don't know what the hell they're saving their sentinels or their hologrounds for. Just like, I don't know. Tip, if you're leveling your tanks, by the way, healers, we want your cooldowns. We want your tank cooldowns on your large pulls, alright? We don't give a shit about dungeon boss damage. You don't need your cooldowns there. All you need for dungeon boss damage is your short-term cooldowns. You know, your Sheltrons, your Heart of Stones, your Raw Intuitions. That's all we need for dungeon bosses. But we need your actual cooldowns on large pulls. So if you're leveling a tank, just keep that in mind. That's where healers want your defensive cooldowns when it comes to dungeons. Obviously, it's different when you're doing, like, you know, primal fights, raid fights and all that. It's a different thing, but in dungeons we want it during the large pulls, not during the dungeon bosses. So don't save your cooldowns for dungeon bosses. Dungeon boss damage, it's easy, all right? We want it during the large pulls, please. So keep that in mind if you're leveling a tank. So all right, so healing is interesting. I don't know how I feel about healing just yet. I need to kind of heal a lot more. I've had limited experience with Astrologian. As I said, I kind of just leveled it just now. I wanted to level it before they made any job adjustments, so I can kind of see how it felt before they adjusted anything. Spoiler alert, it felt terrible. I hated it. But White Mage and Scholar were fine, you know. But I will get into specifics, but in terms of healing, I'm not having as much fun healing dungeons, at least on healers. I mean, dungeons have never been that fun on healers, to be honest, but I've always had way more fun healing just like primal fights and stuff like that, because that's where I feel like healing is the most fun, is in those raid fights and in those primal fights. That's when healing is the most fun. So really looking forward to doing more healing in those types of things, not just dungeons, which is not that fun on healers, I will say that. So yeah, I guess it's time to kind of get into the specifics. So we're going to start off with White Mage, because I feel like White Mage is kind of easy to kind of talk about, because I think White Mage is actually in the best spot out of the three healers right now. I feel like you don't need to change anything about White Mage. They're going to change some stuff about White Mage, almost certainly, but I really don't think you need to. Now, some people are going to say White Mage is a little too powerful. They're going to point to two things. They're probably going to point to Glare being as strong as it is, and it's like they need Glare to be as strong as it is. You know why? Because we don't bring anything. We don't bring anything else. What White Mage has is just raw power, raw healing power, raw DPS, raw personal DPS power. That's what they bring. So they need to have that feeling of being powerful, and I think it nails it. I really do. You know, people are going to point to a size. I feel like if there's a size is almost certainly going to get adjusted. I feel like there's too many people complaining that it's too powerful. I personally don't think it is. I think it's completely fine and fits with what White Mage is supposed to be, which is powerful. You know, personal, high healing, high DPS power. That is what White Mage brings to the table. When you bring a White Mage, that's what they're bringing. When you bring a Scholar, they bring a nice balance of healing, nice balance of damage mitigation. They also got that crit buff. And then when you bring Astrologians, obviously they're bringing some extra rate DPS. But when you bring a White Mage, you're bringing them for their extremely diversive healing toolkit, as well as there's just raw healing power and, you know, high personal DPS. That's what you're bringing your White Mage for. So I think a size fits that perfectly. I don't think you really need to change it, but I highly suspect with the amount of people kind of complaining about a size being a little too powerful, or, you know, not really complaining. No one's going to complain that something's too powerful, but saying that it's too powerful, it's almost certainly going to get adjusted. And I feel like the easiest adjustment that they'll probably make is they'll probably bump up the recast time to 60 seconds like it was before in the past. I don't even remember when they reduced it down to 45 seconds, and I remember thinking at the time they didn't need to do that, but I've been really loving that 45-second recast, and I'm going to miss it because I feel like that's almost certainly going to be the change they make to a size. If not that, then they'll probably just adjust the potency of the damage it deals, which, you know, fine, whatever. Looking at everything else on White Mage, regen is fine. It used to be 21 seconds, but it does a lot more healing over its duration of 18 seconds than it did over that 21 seconds. That 200 per tick over the 150 per tick really does help a lot for White Mage, and it's only 500 MP, which when we go over to Astrologian and you look at diurnal aspected benefic, it's like 1000 MP, which is insane. That's definitely something I'm looking forward to changing. But just looking at White Mage in general, it's good. There's really not much I really want changed. There's a couple of weird changes to kind of talk about. Asylum getting the increased healing via recovery via healing actions, you know, by 10%. It's nice. The problem is that it's not like if you're standing in it, you're giving more. It's not outputting. Basically, it's inputting. So everyone has to actually be standing in Asylum for them to get the enhanced healing actions, or yeah, increased healing actions. I mean, rather than, you know, if you're standing in it, you're outputting more potency on your healing actions. So you know, getting people to stay standing in Asylum can be a bit of a pain sometimes because people don't want to stand and stuff for some reason. I don't know, they'll see a big pit on the ground that does healing, like I'll throw down Earthly Star, I'll throw down Sacred Soil, Asylums, and there'll be just like a DPS over in the corner that just doesn't want to move in range. Just no reason. Like, it'll be over. It's not even like it's a black mage that just wants to stand still, which I could understand. It's like it's a red mage, or it's a bard, or it's a dancer, and they don't want to move into it for no reason. Like there's nothing there, there's nothing that's gonna hit them. They don't want to move into it. So it's just like, you know what, fine. So it's getting people to cooperate and actually stand and stuff is kind of a pain. You know, when it comes to like Titania or you know, just raids in general, people are generally a lot more coordinated and more willing to kind of stand in one spot. So thankfully, where it really matters a lot, it definitely helps. But yeah, Asylum, I do think that it'd be a little nice if we increase the radius of Asylum to 8 yalms to kind of match Sacred Soil and Earthly Star, but you know, 6 yalms, I guess it's fine. I also think that, you know, while the increased healing actions is nice to have, it's not as good as having just damage mitigation. and a regen, like with Sacred Soil. Sacred Soil is insane, by the way. Like, we all talking about how Assize is powerful. Sacred Soil is, in my opinion, ridiculous. So yeah, that's the thing that I'm saying. That's powerful. I feel like Sacred Soul is kind of going under the radar because of, but it really is that thing is, it's strong. It's really good. Sacred Soul is really good. I know I'm kind of jumping ahead to Scholar right now, but it's really good. Plenary Indulgence, I actually didn't think this needed to be changed. It's kind of a weird change. Before, Plenary Indulgence would always just kind of be a passive thing you could always get. You could always get your confession stacks, no matter what, and it happened whenever you actually did healing via your healing spells. So people have to actually be missing HP in order for you to grant them confession stacks, but it'd always be something that would kind of happen in the background, and depending on how many confession stacks people had when you pressed Plenary Indulgence, kind of depended on the amount of healing they got when you pressed it. Now it kind of acts as a healing, AoE healing cooldown. You put this up, people who have the confession will get an additional 200 potency ability cure whenever you use an AoE spell, and that thankfully includes a Flash's Rapture now. Back in the media tour, a Flash's Rapture was not affected by Planetary Indulgence, and thankfully going into early access they did make that change. A Flash's Rapture thankfully does actually get you that extra 200 potency when using Planetary Indulgence, which thank goodness, by the way, thank goodness. Dia Glare, I mean, they look pretty, they do more damage. There's really nothing else to say there. People are saying that White Mage is doing too much damage. They're not. They're doing as much damage as they should be doing, in my opinion. It's fine. Don't worry. White Mage, don't nerf White Mage DPS. Just don't do it. Just don't touch it. Don't touch White Mage DPS. I know you probably want to touch other things. Just don't touch White Mage DPS. A Flash's Misery is fine as well. I was kind of worried that a Flash's Misery would be kind of one of those things where it feels like you're forced to use your spells in order to get to a Flash's Misery, which you kind of are. You know, I guess we should talk about the Lily system and how that's working out. In my opinion, it kind of just works as a worse Aether Flow. That's really my take on it. It's basically just a worse Aether Flow. It's an Aether Flow that gradually has to build up while you're in battle, and you get one every 30 seconds rather than getting 3 every 60 seconds, and you can only use it on spells rather than abilities like you can with Aether Flow, and it's fine. It is what it is. It's fine. I think you get a Flash's Rapture way too late, honestly. I'd really love to have had this much earlier in the leveling process. You get it way too late. I really think you should have gotten this close to the start of the expansion, if not just retroactively put like at level 70 or something, because we really could have used this throughout a lot of the leveling process for White Mage. I feel I think you really get a Flash's Rapture a little late, and even when you do get it, it's not even that great. It's just a 300 potency a heal, which again isn't a whole lot when you kind of factor in how little healing we're kind of doing now. It's not a lot. Like, this isn't going to be like it's very rare that you'll be able to just pop a Flash's Rapture on its own and just not have it be enough to kind of deal with the damage that's going out. Yeah, you're gonna need to pair it with something else, whether that be your Planetary Indulgence, your Size, your Asylum, or Medica 2, something. You're gonna need something else almost certainly all the time when you're casting this, so it's not even that strong. Like, you look at Indomitability, I mean, it's an ability, but it's doing like 500. So I wouldn't mind if a Flash's Rapture and even Medica 1 at that rate get a little bit of buff, but at the same time I don't think they really need to, because you have things like Planetary Indulgence once every minute to kind of increase that, and at the same time Medica 2 is always there. That's 700 potency heal, which is insane. So yeah, I don't think they really need to touch it, but I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of a buff to a Flash's Rapture or Medica, because I think that it'd be nice, but I don't think it's necessary. And what's the other one called? A Flash's Solace. It's basically just an instant cast cure 2 that requires a Lily. It's good. It's fine. It's helpful. I think 700 potency is decent enough. It's slightly more than a Lustrate, So yeah, I think it's fine. And when it comes to a Flatch's Misery, obviously you need to nourish 3 lilies, which means you need to use 3 of Flatch's Solaces or 3 of Flatch's Raptures in order to get to this. Thankfully, it is 900 potency, so it means that if you are purposely not using glare so you can use like your Flatch's Solace so you're actually nourishing your lily, you end up breaking even when it comes to DPS. So you know, 3 glares, that's 900 potency. A Flatch's Misery on on a single target, that's also 900 potency. And obviously it's more if you're using it in an AoE situation. I wouldn't mind if actually a Flatch's Misery got a little bit of a buff as well, just so it's slightly more than just casting 3 glares, so you feel like you're not just breaking even and you're actually gaining some DPS for actually using and interacting with your gauge. So you know, you're getting just a little bit extra DPS by actually using it and not just breaking even using your gauge. I guess the takeaway is that, well, you know, you're breaking even on DPS, but you're also contributing more healing. I guess that's kind of the benefit of using your gauge properly. I guess that's what that is. But honestly, adding, you know, maybe another 50, 100 potency on this, that sounds like, oh my Tsuki, you're crazy adding more potency onto a Flatch's Misery. It's something you use once every 90 seconds. It's not gonna be that big of a deal in the long stretch. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of a potency bump on a Flatch's Misery, but I think it's also just fine as it is. And that's really how it is with White Mage. I think White Mage is perfectly fine as it is, but I feel like it could do with some changes. Like, I wouldn't mind some changes. I really don't think you should nerf anything at all on White Mage. I think it's perfectly fine. I wouldn't mind seeing a couple buffs here and there, but I don't think it's actually necessary. I think White Mage is actually perfect right now. I do miss Arrow 3, by the way. Like, I mean, if anything, just like the animation. Like, I don't need you to bring back the AoE dot, even though that would be really cool. But the animation, I miss it so much. Like, if you threw Arrow 3's animation onto Glare, I'd be like so happy. Like, I don't know how that actually worked, because it just like the way Glare comes out of your cane, it wouldn't really work that way. But it'd be really cool. I just hit my knee on that desk. It really hurts now. But yeah, when it comes to White Mage, it's fine. I really don't think so. The Medica 2 change, actually, I'm not a huge fan. It's like I said when I was talking about healers in the NA tour. It's really ups and downs, positives and downsides to it. The upside to it is that you're getting that healing potency quicker. You know, you're getting that full 700 potency quicker than you were before, which means that if you need people's HP bars to fill up, which there's a lot of AoE damage going out in various pieces of content, no matter what you're doing, whether it's dungeons, primals, raids, whatever, there's a lot of AoE damage going out, so it's helpful that this kind of gives everyone their HP in half the time than it did before. But at the same time, if you're trying to use Medica 2 to kind of deal with damage preemptively, or, you know, to kind of deal with consistent damage, like let's see, what's that boss? The Bat Squatch or whatever that's in Ratika Greatwood, or Kitana Ravel. The second boss in Kitana Ravel, basically, that does the multiple slams on the ground. You know, Medica 2, you know, it has its uses being only 15 seconds, but it was also 30 seconds, then you could have it, you know, constantly ticking while everyone's also taking all that damage. So it's like ups and downs. I think that for the most part it's probably more positive than it is negative, with how healing's kind of lower now in Shadowbringers than it has been before. Getting that healing potency quicker is probably more beneficial than it is not than having it spread out over 30 seconds. So yeah, I don't know. I'm personally more attached to the 30-second Medica 2. It still does the same potency, it's just in half the time. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. But yeah, White Mage, it's doing good. It really is doing really well. They're absolutely swimming in MP. White Mage, in particular, swimming in MP. You're actually just drowning in MP, honestly, if you're playing it correctly, which is basically just using Lucid Dreaming and using your size, and then using Thin Air whenever you need to do some AoE healing or raise somebody, and you're absolutely swimming in MP. You shouldn't have any problems with MP on White Mage, unless you die, in which case, yeah, you should be having MP problems because you died. Then that's your punishment. Temperance, it's cool. It's fun. I haven't got to use it a whole lot. And wings, it's cool. It's nice. It looks really pretty. Yeah, that's nice. I guess because we're getting damage reduction on this, it kind of makes up for the fact that we don't get damage reduction on Asylum. So it kind of similar to Sacred Soil. But yeah, I guess that's what that is. I mean, 10% reduction in damage, just flat reduction in damage. By the way, it's not like magic damage, physical damage. It's just flat damage reduction for 20 seconds. That's not bad. Like that's actually pretty good, and you're getting the healing magic potency on top of that. The only difference is just that I would have preferred so much if we just kept largesse its own thing and just had these like abilities, had temperance, had dissipation, had neutral sect be their own things, so that because sometimes it just you don't need all of that at once. You don't need to have healing magic potency and damage reduction at the same time, you know. Especially when we get to talking about Astrologian and neutral sect, because neutral sect is ridiculous, ridiculously strong, and you don't need all of that all at once. But we're kind of jumping ahead a bit. But when it comes to White Mage, I think it's fine. White Mage it's fine. I really don't think you need to touch anything on White Mage. You don't need to buff it. You don't need to nerf it. Just don't touch it. They're going to touch it, but don't touch it. Just don't. I'm asking you not to touch it, but I know you guys are gonna touch it. Just don't touch it. Really, I do think that White Mage needs to kind of fulfill that feeling of being strong. Of it should feel like it's overpowered at times. And when you're casting Holy and everything's stunned, you should feel like you're powerful. When you're casting Holy, you're throwing down your size, you should feel powerful. You know why? Because at the end of the day, when they fix Astrologian so that it doesn't feel awful to heal on, that's what White Mage is going to be competing with directly, almost certainly. Because Scholar is always going to have a solid place in a party. You know why? Because they bring a nice mix of everything. They bring decent healing. They bring decent damage mitigation. They have slight raid DPS with chain stratagem. Scholars, they're perfect. They're a good all-rounder healer. But when it comes to White Mage and Astrologian, what White Mage brings is just raw power. So they need to have things that feel like they're overpowered at times, because that's what they bring. Because what Astrologian brings, they bring raid DPS. They bring quite a bit of raid DPS. And a lot of people are going to value that raid DPS more. So White Mage, it needs to have that power to kind of compete with Astrologian, in my opinion. So in my opinion, the fact that that White Mage might feel a little bit powerful at times, that's a good thing. It should feel that way, in my opinion. But moving on. All right, let's talk about Scholar. Now, unpopular opinion, I think Scholar's DPS is fun. If you're complaining about Scholar's DPS rotation, I don't really care that much about it, honestly. I don't think it needs to change. I think it's fine. I'm not overly attached to how Scholars were DPSing before. If you are upset about that, then I understand, I guess, but at the same time, I don't personally care. I don't care. So for me, who doesn't personally care about the DPS rotation getting kind of simplified on Scholar, I think Scholars are doing great. Yeah, they're doing fantastic. As I already talked about, Sacred Soil, once you get that trait at level 78 that adds the regen, that's just ridiculous. That's basically, Sacred Soul is just ridiculous. It's up every 30 seconds. You only need to pop one Aetherflow stack to use it. So you can have 2 of these per Aetherflow cast, and it's totally worth doing 2 of these per Aetherflow cast, because Sacred Soil is a good answer to anything, honestly. Raid damage, party-wide damage going out, Sacred Soil. Tanks taking a lot of damage in large pool, Sacred Soul. Want to throw down something so that the tank has some extra mitigation and is also getting some regen just from auto attacks, Sacred Soil. Sacred Soul, it's the answer to everything. This is hands down, Sacred Soul, in my opinion, is probably the best Aetherflow ability on Scholar right now. Like, eat your heart out in Dom and XCOG. Sacred Soul, in my opinion, is way better than both of those, even though Indom and XCOG are very strong as well. Indom, as we just talked about, 400 potency heal, it's good. I think it was 500 potency before in Stormblood, 400 potency now. That makes it even with the size. So that's good. That's good. It's still very powerful. It's still very usable. Sacred Soul is doing more healing, obviously, but it takes 15 seconds to do so. But it also has that damage reduction. So again, it's like Sacred Soul is it's so good. It's so good. Like Sacred Soul, stronger than Endom, 100%. In Dom though, it's still good. If you need that instant healing or Sacred Soul is already down, and you need more healing, then obviously in Dom still very good to use. XCog, again, it's the exact same thing as it was before. 800 potency cure. You can throw it up preemptively and it will automatically trigger either when the time expires or they drop below 50%, and it's a nice cure. Like 800 potency cure on an ability, it's still quite a bit, and it helps out a lot with kind of it's a nice safety net, and it really goes a long way to kind of making sure that you feel safe on Scholar, especially in those large dungeon pools. Yeah, XCOG definitely goes a long way to kind of putting your mind at ease a bit, knowing that you have a really big cure waiting for you, waiting to kind of just tick and blow up or detonate. Or these all sound like bad things that are happening, even though it's actually a good thing that's happening. That will just kind of happen when they go below 50%. So you have that nice safety net. XCOG, it's good. One thing that people are going to complain about, and then you also have your Lustrage, which is 600 potency cure. I think I said earlier with 700 potency. I think they knock it's 600 potency. It's always been 600 potency, but I think I might have said it was 700 potency earlier, but it's 600 potency. But people are going to complain because you don't have any offensive ways to use your Aether Flow stacks, and it does kind of suck, but at the same time I kind of like it because then I feel like when I don't have anything offensive to use my Aether Flow stacks, then I'm only using them for healing, only using them for defense, and then I feel more free to use more Sacred Soils, to use more Lustrates, to use more Indoms. I don't feel like I have to use it on Bane, or I don't have to use it on Energy Drain to keep up my DPS. I feel like it's totally fine to just pop these on my healing and defensive abilities, and I kind of like the change that you don't have to use it offensively, your Aether Flow offensively. What I don't like though is that Aether Flow, you need to be in battle to use Aether Flow. I think that's a dumb change in my opinion, because it sucks. I mean, realistically, because you can't use Aether Flow offensively anymore, what's this gonna do? Like, if you have 3 Aether Flow stacks going into a fight, what's this gonna do? Nothing. What you gonna do? You're gonna throw down an XCOG, throw down the Sacred Soil, and what, burn and Lustrate on nothing, and then pop your Aether Flow again, and then what? You have 3 stacks. It's just like, why? Why can't we use this outside of battle? It really sucks that you can't use this outside of battle. It feels weirdly not great. If there was a change that I would make to Scholar, it'd be the ability to use this outside of battle. That'd be really fantastic, because I feel like the advantage of being able to use this outside of battle isn't even that great. Like, again, yeah, you could get a Sacred Soil and an XCOG for free kind of right off the bat, and then you just kind of have to burn something real fast and then pop your Aether Flow that's waiting for you at the start of the fight, and then you have three stacks again. You got that free Sacred Soil, you got that free XCOG, and that's it, really. I mean, is a free Sacred Soil and a free XCOG really that worth making it so we can't use this outside of battle? Is it though? Especially since this is also tied to our MP. It's really nice, in between, dungeon pulls. It's like, my Aether Flow's off cooldown. I'd really like to get that 10% MP back, but nope, gotta wait until we get into battle again. So yeah, I don't know. They're probably not going to change that, but it'd be really nice if we could get that changed. Eos and Selene being the same thing kind of sucks that there's no differentiating between them, but it is what it is. At least we got Seraph. We got a new Faerie. So we've been asking for a new Faerie for a long time, and it's something that kind of happens limited time. But we did get a new Faerie, so I guess that's kind of the trade-off. We lost one Faerie, we got a new Faerie, and it just kind of evens out, I guess, kind of. Now, they did make a change to Art of War, thankfully. I used to feel like it used to feel awful to use Art of War because Art of War costed so much MP, and you'd burn through your MP so fast using Art of War. But with the patch with 4.01, which released Eden normal mode, they did change Art of War and Gravity on Astrologian up to B600 MP. So it's all the AoE spells, Holy, Gravity, Art of War, all cost 600 MP now. And Art of War doesn't feel as terrible to use anymore. In fact, Art of War feels pretty decent to use now. The fact that it's instant cast actually leaves a lot of room open for you to just use your Aether Flow abilities, which it feels really good actually, because it's just opening up all of this time for you to just use your Aether Flow abilities. I was going to use Aether Flow abilities, but I can't trigger them because I can't use Aether Flow outside of battle. But you know, you're popping this, your GCD is off cooldown, you have all this free time to, you know, use your Sacred Soils, use your Lush traits, your Indoms, your whatever. So it's good. I like Art of War. It's fine. I used to really hate using it because it costs so much MP, but now that its MP is kind of equal with Holy and all that, it feels a lot better to use, and I don't feel like shit whenever I have to use Art of War. It makes Scholar actually one of my favorite healers to kind of do older content on, because Art of War is just, it's so good, and you have it basically at level 46, so you have it for most synced content on Scholar. You'll have Art of War, and it's really good, and yeah, it feels really good to use, and it's really easy to use as well. You know, there's not having to stand in range to use Holy and get that cast off, and you know, hope that something doesn't hit you before you get the stun off, or Gravity, having that cast time, and also just not having much, having to spam heals a lot more than the other two healers. So yeah, Art of War, it's nice. It's okay. Dissipation, like we said, it kind of acts as your largesse equivalent. Like Dissipation always gave you this healing magic potency, but since largesse is gone, this is kind of all you get when it comes to healing magic potency. You do have Fey Illumination too, I guess. Does it show you right here? Fey Illumination, which does increase your healing magic potency by 10%. So it is kind of like a mini largesse that you kind of get early on, and it's in an AoE, and it reduces magic damage, which I'd say most party-wide damage is magic damage, so Fey Illumination is actually really nice as well. But I'd say that the kind of the direct comparison to your temperances, your neutral sex is probably Dissipation, which yes, it orders your Faerie away, but it also grants you a full stack of Aether Flow, and you know, that kind of helps counteract that. Your Faerie, by the way, right now it's very weak. You know, Embrace is extremely weak right now. Like I suspected Embrace was going to be really weak, but it is really weak, and you know, I kind of knew it was going to be really weak kind of going into Shadowbringers, but yeah, I mean, I was prepared for it, so it's not that big of a deal to me. Really, a lot of the healing is kind of on you as a Scholar. Your pet actions, though, are actually kind of strong. Like, hold on, let me go hit something real quick so I can get some Aether Flow. Actually, I don't even need to. I just need to, I don't know why I thought pet actions needed, Aether Flow stack. So let me just unequip some equipment and then put it all back so that we can see how much Eos is healing us for. Yeah, that is nothing. 3,300. That is nothing. That is literally nothing. When tanks are having like 110, 120k HP, yeah, like 3,300 MP. That's nothing. Or 3,300 HP rather. That's nothing. So Embrace, don't count on Embrace to do anything. Honestly, it's doing really nothing. Just it's nothing. Embrace is just, it's so bad right now. It makes me sad. But when you go and cast something like Whispering Dawn, what is the actual potency? I feel like your pet actions actually do more than your pet spells, because Embrace is doing 150, but when you do Whispering Dawn, that's 120, right? So let's see what this does. Per tick, all right, 2,600. So yeah, actually, it is about where it should be. But you know, when it comes to your Faerie, Embrace isn't where it's at. It's using your pet actions is really where it's at. Whispering Dawn is really helpful when you can get it off. Once every 60 seconds, you got just a little bit of extra AoE healing. Fey Illumination, like I talked about, is actually really good. It's just finding good places to use it, because getting that 10% extra healing magic potency kind of makes up for the fact that your Faerie isn't doing a whole lot. This does actually affect your Faerie too, by the way. It increases their Embrace just a tiny little bit. So now I don't know, I guess what's 10% of that? So now your Embrace are doing like 3,700 at like 440-ish. But getting that 10% healing is really going to help you out, because like when you go, how much my physic doing? All right, that crit. My physics are doing like, what, see, 13,000. So getting another, you know, 1,300 on my physic, that kind of helps make up for the fact that, you know, Embrace is kind of doing not so hot. One thing you do need to keep in mind is that you do need your fairy to come in to summon Seraph, by the way. So if you are using Dissipation, make sure it's not like gonna clash with summoning Seraph. Like if you need to summon Seraph, and Seraph's cooldown is less than 30 seconds from cooling down, and you want to use Dissipation, just kind of keep that in mind. Is that you wouldn't be able to summon Seraph until your fairy actually gets back onto the field. One thing that's kind of weird is actually Fate Blessing. You need 10 fairy gauge. Actually, do need to go hit something now to get some fairy gauge. But you need 10 fairy gauge in order to use it. Which just, it feels really weird because it's already on a cooldown, right? Like it's on a 60-second cooldown, but you need 10 fairy gauge to use it. I mean, it's a 7500 potency AoE heal, which by AoE healing standards, it's actually pretty sizable. Like, what is the actual potency on this? Fate Blessing 350. Like, that's actually, it's a pretty sizable AoE heal, in my opinion. Like when you go and you hit onto your medicas. This is doing what, like almost 10,000, mid 900s about. So I mean it's a pretty sizable heal. It's just shy of a Medica's potency. So I mean, Fate Blessing isn't bad. It's kind of weird that it needs that 10 fairy gauge to use on top of having a 60-second cooldown, right? 60 seconds. I don't know. That just feels weird to me. It's like just have the cooldown. You don't need the fairy gauge on it. But at the same time, it's like, when don't you have 10 fairy gauge? Because you're only using your fairy gauge on Fate Union. Other than that, Fate Union's still very helpful, especially now that our healing is a lot less. Having that regen, that pretty consistent regen for scholars is extremely helpful. But when don't you have 10 fairy gauge is just the kind of the question. It's like, because the only time you wouldn't have 10 fairy gauge is if you left Fate Union on by accident, or you just left Fate Union going because you needed it, and then it just ended and you don't have anything. But you're constantly using your 8th of those stacks throughout the fight, so you always have your 10 gauge. So it's like, why even have the cost? It's kind of a weird thing to me. It feels like if you're gonna have it cost fairy gauge, have it cost a little bit more and then lower the cooldown, or just don't have the fairy gauge cost at all, in my opinion. It's just kind of weird like that. Where did Eos go? Oh yeah, I hopped onto White Mage, so that's why she's gone. Alright, so and then you have Summon Seraph, which brings out Seraph. She comes down, she's cool, she's nice. I'm gonna unequip some stuff real quick so we can see how much she's healing for. About 4,500, and then you get that Seraphic Veil on top of that. So it's about like a 9,000. When you kind of look at it that way, which is pretty sizable for a single target heal. You also have your consolations, which is kind of fit into a weird spot, honestly. The thing about consolation is that you get 2 charges, which means and by the time you get your next Seraph cast, they'll both be back, so you want to use both of them during your Seraph cast when she's out. But the thing about consolation is just, it feels really weird because it's basically a Sukkar basically on Seraph. You're gonna be wasting your shield almost certainly most of the time, unless you summon Seraph and then you cast Consolation before damage goes out, and then after the damage goes out you cast it again. That's the only time you're gonna get the full benefit of both consolations. Otherwise, you're almost certainly gonna be wasting one of the shields on one of your consolations because of the fact that you're just gonna be overriding one of the shields with your second consolation almost certainly at one point. So unless there's consistent damage, or you use it and then before the damage goes out for the shield aspect, and then I got a sub, I think. I forgot that happens because OBS is on. But and then you cast it again after the damage goes out. You're kind of wasting consolations. You're wasting one part of your consolations basically. So I think that it actually would be better if you had one charge of consolation and it did more healing. Bump the potency up a bit to, like, I don't know, 450, 500, and then just have one consolation per summon Seraph. But I don't think they're gonna make that change. And honestly, it's not even a major deal. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal. when it comes to Summon Seraph. Now, one thing I do want to test is if I haven't actually paid that much attention, so let's test it out right now. I want to see if Seraph's version of Whispering Dawn and well, I guess Fae Illumination, it's not going to be stronger, but Seraph's version of Whispering Dawn is going to be any stronger than what it is. I guess I didn't actually need to get 8th flow stacks, but let's see, 2700, 3900. That was a crit. 26. Yeah, it's not much stronger. So yeah, just I wanted to make sure that Seraph wasn't like putting out stronger Whispering Dawns or anything, but it doesn't look like she is. But yeah, I don't know. Summon Seraph, really cool when she's out in the field. It's actually a pretty major help because what is it called? Seraphic Veil is actually very, very strong. And then you have your Angel Whisper, you have a Seraphic Illumination, which is basically the same thing as Whispering Dawn and Fae Illumination, just themed for Seraph. And then you have your Constellation. So Seraph is actually a pretty good contribution, I think, to Scholar's healing. And it's definitely noticeable when she's out in the field versus when she's not, because mostly because Eos and Celine are just doing so little that when Seraph's actually on the field and doing actually, you know, sizable amounts of noticeable healing and mitigation, it's noticeable. Est is about to go, so I'm gonna pop another Gazal Green there, liking that Dancer Barding. I grinded way too much for that Dancer Barding when the game first came out. I got it in like the second week it came out. I hated myself for doing all those fates, but totally worth it. But yeah, when it changed stratagem got reduced to 10%, it's fine, I guess. I don't know. Like when you kind of stop to think of that, change stratagem is kind of the only raid DPS that we kind of offer. It kind of sucks that it got reduced to 10%. This came out in the media tour as well, but I kind of overlooked it. But it used to be 15%, now it's 10%. But you know, it is what it is. Again, Scholar does such a good balance of the two, that of both healing and damage mitigation, that I think it's fine that they're not contributing as much rate DPS as they have before. One thing about Scholar is that when you're in those situations where you've kind of blown through everything, right? When you know, you're in your large pulls, your tanks aren't using their cooldowns or whatever, so you have to use all yours. You've blown through all your 8th flow. You know, you don't have dissipation because you've burned through that as well, and it's on a 3-minute cooldown, so it would happen. It happens sometimes. You don't have your Seraph because, you know, you're in the leveling dungeon or something, or you already used Seraph, and you're kind of having to rely solely on your spells, which don't amount to much really. It's just Physic, Adloquium, and Sucker. When you're in those situations, it really can kind of suck. But there's, you know, Physic is just a basic 400 potency heal. It's not amazing. And spamming Adloquium, you're gonna run low on MP if you're just spamming this over and over again. But it kind of does suck when you run out of 8th flow. Like, a lot of your power is definitely linked to your 8th flow and to your Faerie. So whenever you run out of resources to kind of use those things, Scholar is just it's not that great. Now, I mean, the good thing about Scholar is that you have so many that as long as you're kind of staggering them correctly, you should at least always have access to at least one of these things. So again, you know, when you look at how powerful your 8th flow abilities are, it makes sense that, you know, when you get down to, you know, basic Physic being only 400 potency, it's not that bad. And Adloquium, it's good. It's really good. It's still as good as it has been before, even with that catalyzed change. Now that brings me to Recitation. Or Recitation. I actually don't know how to pronounce that correctly because I'm an idiot. But when it comes to Recitation, you're almost certainly, like 99% of the time, going to be using this on Adloquium, and the other 1% of the time you might use it on Indomitability if you need some AoE healing instead. But guaranteed, 99% of the time you're going to be using this on Adloquium. Sucker, it's really not worth using on Sucker. If you need AoE mitigation, throw down a Sacred Soil or throw down your ad low, and then deployment tactics it, you know? So yeah, it's not worth using on Sugar in my opinion. And XCOG, it doesn't even work on XCOG, by the way. And by not working on XCOG, you don't get the critical HP recovery. So when you use this on XCOG, all that happens is you can use it without using an 8th flow stack, and that's the only part of using it on XCOG that you get. You don't get a critical heal when XCOG goes off. And I tried both, getting the instant heal from having it less than 50% when you cast it, and also having my HP dip below 50% ever having casted it. It doesn't work on either of those. So you don't get critical healing on XCOG. Just keep that in mind in case you've been using it on XCOG. It's not worth using it on XCOG. Just use it on Adlo and instead. But yeah, when it comes to Ad Loquium and the catalyze and galvanize effects, it's fine. This really only affects the fact if you want to deployment tactics it, and even deployment tacticsing an Ad Loquium, even if it isn't a crit Ad Lo, is still a massive amount of mitigation on top of being able to throw down your Sacred Soils, and on top of having Seraphic Veil or a Consolation, right? So yeah, you didn't need to have that insane crit Ad Low to be able to spread to everybody, in my opinion. So yeah, I think the fact that Catalyze is its own thing is totally fine. It doesn't affect Scholar's capabilities at all that much. So yeah, Scholars are, in my opinion, doing great. They have a nice balance of healing and damage mitigation. A lot of their stuff there's a lot more going on Scholar than say your White Mages, because you're constantly balancing your abilities between your Faerie actions, your 8th flow stacks, making sure you're kind of conserving your stacks when you need to, or making sure you're using your dissipations when you don't need your Faerie and you need some more stacks, you need some more healing. There's a lot more going on Scholar. It's a bit more difficult to play, and you get a nice balance of everything on Scholar, and I think it's totally worth it, worth the extra difficulty in playing a Scholar. I know a lot of people who have been playing Scholar are really upset about your DPS rotation being simpler, but again, I personally don't care. I'm having a lot of fun on Scholar. I think Scholar is in a very good place right now, and there isn't a whole lot I would ask to really be changed on Scholar. I think Scholar is actually doing really good. Everything is fine. I'm really kind of hoping, just like with the size, that they don't nerf Sacred Soul, because Sacred Soul is so good right now. Please don't nerf Sacred Soil. It's really good. I know it's really good. Just please don't nerf Sacred Soil. Don't nerf it. Please don't nerf it. But yeah, Scholars are doing fantastic right now. I honestly can't think of anything I'd honestly want changed on Scholar right now, because it's doing real good. The only things that again is just being able to use 8th flow outside of battle, which I don't think we'll get. The other thing I would have said before the changes in patch 4.01 would be to reduce the MP cost of Art of War, which they already did. So yeah, I think Scholar and White Mage are both in a pretty decent spot in terms of how healing is currently in Shadowbringers. I mean, obviously all the healers are doing a lot less healing than they would have been if we were in Stormblood right now. But that's kind of just where Square Enix wants the level of healing to kind of be at. And I think Scholar and White Mage are well equipped to kind of deal with healing on the sort of level that Square Enix are trying to kind of put healers on right now. And I'm having fun on kind of both of them in terms of healing. Now, what isn't quite on the level that it needs to be on right now for the healing and how it is currently in Shadowbringers is Astrologian. Astrologian, oh boy, this is where I want all of the healer changes to be funneled into, is into Astrologian. Like, I know we were talking about the cards and how disappointing it is that the cards kind of got its complexity removed and everything's just a balance now. Just honestly, just putting that aside, like, just put aside the cards for a moment here. Astrologian as a healer, it's terrible. It's awful. I feel terrible healing on Astrologian. Like I said, I got done healing or leveling Astrologian last night / this morning, and I just the leveling process was painful. It was very painful, especially with tanks. Their varying levels of tanks, because it's really 50-50 if you get a tank that actually knows what they're doing and actually cycles their cooldowns. And when you get those tanks that just are stingy with their cooldowns or don't use cooldowns at all, it really is just, it's a horrible experience on Astrologian in particular, because you don't have a whole lot on Astrologian to kind of keep up with the healing. So let's kind of discuss. So Benefic 400 potency cure. Again, level with Physic. I think cure is 450 now, right? Like they changed that a while back. It's 450. Yeah, so it's on the same level as Physic. Honestly, I'd never get to use Benefic. You know why? Because Benefic is never going to be able to cut it on Astrologian. It's not. Benefic is just not going to be able to cut it anymore. It's almost always Benefic 2 or go home on Astrologian, really. Thankfully, Benefic 2 only costs 900 MP. I mean, you're still going to be blowing through your MP, spamming this over and over again, especially on Astrologian, where you don't have anything that restores max MP anymore. Like, you got your 5% MP on a size, which I believe that was 10% in the NA Media Tour, but they reduced it to 5%. Honestly, White Mage are swimming in MP right now, so it doesn't matter. But you know, you don't got your 5% MP from this size. You don't get your 10% MP from Aetherflow. Astrologian, they don't got anything that gives percentage MP back. So that's something that I would kind of look forward to getting. And there's an ability I have in mind that I think it would actually be perfect to kind of put that on. But yeah, spamming Benefic 2, you kind of need to on Astrologian, really, because Benefic, as I said, is just not going to cut it for large dungeon pulls in particular. When it comes down to it, you're just spamming the hell out of this and just hoping and praying that your DPS is high enough to whittle down the enemies fast enough so that your healing, the amount of healing you need to do, goes down before the tank just dies. That's basically healing large trash pulls on Astrologian when you kind of exhausted all of your abilities, which you do still have a couple powerful ones, and thankfully those things were kind of able to kind of get me through the leveling process. If I didn't have those abilities, I'm telling you right now, I would have put down Astrologian and have refused to level it until we had gotten job adjustments. But you got your essential dignities, which exactly the same as how it's functioned in the past. Before, you got your base 400 cure potency, and it progressively goes up as your target's potency goes HP goes down. So I believe before it go up to 1000 potency if who you're healing at was at 1% HP. I'm not sure if that's exactly the same. It does feel that way. It's just that, again, because our healing is lower and because everyone has more HP, it feels like it's doing a lot less, but it's actually healing about the same amount. But again, our healing is a little bit lower, so it's slightly lower than you would expect it to be. But potency wise, it is pretty much about the same as it was back in Stormblood. Light speed is another great one. I believe this used to be 2.5 minutes back in Stormblood. They reduced it to 2 minutes, and thank goodness, because light speed, we definitely needed that reduction. You still actually get hyper light speed, the hyper light speed trait, which whenever you use Essential Dignity, it reduces the cast time by 10 seconds. And I also forgot to mention, at 78, you can now store 2 charges of Essential Dignity, which is also really nice to have on Astrologian in particular, because it's really good to be able to have 2 charges of that, because it's a fantastic healing ability, and it's really kind of the only reliable single target healing ability that you kind of got on Astrologian. So being able to have 2 of these is really nice. But you got your light speeds, still reduces MP costs by 50%, and that kind of helps with the fact that you don't have anything that kind of gives you back a percentage of your MP back like the other 2 healers have. So that kind of helps. It's kind of like thin air in that sense. When you kind of compare the two, light speed is actually, in my opinion, better than thin air, because I take 50% cost for spells and being able to basically instacast basically everything, with the exception of Ascend, obviously, and just kind of move around for 15 seconds, than having thin air just, free MP cost. Because honestly, when you get to a certain when you get to White Mage, it's like, you cast your Medica 2 under Thin Air, maybe you throw in another Medica in there as well, or maybe you use a Cure 3, but after that, it's like, Yeah. I'm kind of done. Well, you know, I don't really need the no MP cost anything anymore. Back to casting my glares, you know. So you know, I feel like that the no MP part kind of gets wasted. So I do feel like Lightspeed is actually, you do have a little bit of an advantage over Thin Air, in my opinion. With Lightspeed, Lightspeed is, in my opinion, better than Thin Air, but not good enough over Thin Air to make it feel better to heal on Astrologian. Let me tell you that much. One thing also, we lost magic potency on our sects. I feel like that's something I should have covered right at the start. But Diurnal Sect, Nocturnal Sect, both of these don't have any increased healing potency like they have in the past. And I feel like maybe that healing potency really carried Astrologian. That and the fact that your healing potencies were or your healing was just doing more back in Stormblood. But yeah, the fact that we kind of don't have that you know, that 10% healing magic potency on General Sect, that 15% on Nocturnal Sect, the fact that that's just gone, that was a passive thing that we're just kind of used to always having, that's gone. Our healing definitely feels like it takes a really big hit on Astrologian. And when it comes to it, I guess an easy, like, just really quick fix would be to just slap that right back on. Just be like, here you go, 5% more healing potency on Diurnal Sect and Nocturnal Sect. There you go. There's some extra healing for you. But again, that's not really the change that we need. I think more importantly, we need to look at our healing abilities and not just slap on just, you know, free healing. That's not the change I'm really looking for right now. It's more adjusting the abilities. Aspected Benefit. Now, depending on if you're in Nocturnal Sect or in Diurnal Sect, it actually changes the MP cost, which I don't think it actually mentions this anywhere in the tooltip. Let's see. Yeah, but if you're in Nocturnal Sect, it doubles the MP cost of Aspected Benefit to 1,000, which coincides with which compares, since it compares directly to Adloquium, which is also 1,000, I believe. Let me check real quick. Yeah, Adloquium is also 1,000, so I feel like that's a very fair change, because Nocturnal Aspected Benefit is ridiculously strong. The amount of shield you can get from this is ridiculously strong. So yeah, I think that's a fair change to kind of give to Aspected Benefit. I think I said earlier that the Aspected Benefit costs 1,000 for Diurnal Sect as well, but it only costs 500, so I was lying. But yeah, looking at it, Aspected Benefit and Diurnal Sect, it does the same amount of healing as White Mage's Regen. It's just that you get 200 potency instantaneously when you cast it, and it lasts 3 seconds less. Same amount of potency, just you get it sooner, I guess, is the sort of the deal there. And then Nocturnal Aspected Benefit compared to Adloquium. I feel like Nocturnal Aspected Benefit still does more healing and more shielding, I guess, than Adloquium, if Adloquium doesn't crit, which is a fair trade, especially since you can now guarantee Adlo crit like once every, what is it, 90 seconds, whatever Recitation's cooldown is. 90 seconds, 2 minutes, one of those two. I think that it's fairly balanced between Regen and Adloquium Aspected Benefit, depending on the sect you're in. Aspected Benefit, I think, is totally fine the way that it is. Aspected Helios. Pepper, what are you doing? Pepper, are you okay? Are you? Alright, that was my cat. He was on my windowsill and he slipped, and then he kept trying to get up and couldn't get up. So that's what that sound was. Yeah, sorry about that. Pepper, just calm down, alright? Just calm down, man. Alright? But Aspected Helios, it feels like Aspected Helios actually isn't healing that much, but in reality, it's only 100 potency in Diurnal Sect. It's only 100 potency less than a Medica 2, and it does actually cost a little bit less than a Medica 2. Medica 2 costs 1,300. Aspected Helios only costs 1,100, so 200 MP costs less for 100 potency less. Yeah, it kind of works out MP to potency wise, but 600 potency heal over its full duration. It feels like it isn't healing that much, honestly, but When we look at Helios, we just get 330 potency on this, which is 30 potency more than a Medica, which is kind of nice. So yeah, I don't know. When it comes to aspect of Helios, it feels like it's not healing as much. I feel like, but it's really just 100 potency. So I don't know. It's just kind of a feel thing. But in terms of actual like effectiveness and what the numbers are actually there for, it's it's totally fine. As for nocturnal sects, I actually haven't had much experience using Aspect of Helios and Nocturnal Sect because I mostly have been playing in Diurnal Sect and only using Nocturnal Sect for applying Aspected Benefic, honestly. But erecting a barrier that nullifies 250 potency of the amount of HP healed. Um, that's a 250 potency shield since you're only curing for 150, right? And if we look at Scholar and Sukkar, let's see, 180, 125%. So it's about the same when you compare it to Sukkar, and also Sukkar costs 1300 as well. So when you're looking at Nocturnal Aspect Benefic, it's about the same as well when you're comparing it to Sukkar. You get less healing, but you get maybe a slightly bigger shield or maybe a slightly lower shield. I don't know. I'm too tired to do the math right now, even though I could just get on my phone and calculate it out real quick. But yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, it's about the same, if not slightly less than their counterparts. Their counterparts being Sukkar and Medica 2. So I think Aspect of Helios is fine. If anything, I'd really like if Aspect of Helios in Diurnal Sect got that extra 5 yalms. I don't know. I don't know why Medica 2 is the only AoE healing spell that has a 20 yalm radius, but it's really helpful for fights where, I don't know, your DPS are just really spread out for some reason. Like Fyuria on Holminster's Switch. I don't know why Fyuria is so big, but just everyone's super spread out on that fight, and it feels horrible trying to AoE heal. Which there's a lot of AoE healing that needs to happen in that fight, but everyone's always spread out. It really sucks. So I don't know. It'd be really nice if we got some 20 yalm heals going on in here. I don't know. Just throw it on Sukkar, throw it on Aspect of Helios. Good to go. Keep Medica and Helios the 50 yalms if you want, but it'd be really nice if we got that change. Just nice quality of life change. Because I mean, again, in primal fights and raids and primal fights, people are usually generally more coordinated and stacked together a lot more closely, so it's not that big of a deal for that. But just basic dungeons, duty finder runs, everyone's kind of doing their own thing. It'd be kind of nice to kind of have that sort of quality of life leeway, I guess. Gravity, we already talked about. It used to cost 700 MP before patch 4.01. Now it only costs 600 MP, so it got slightly MP cost reduction, which doesn't matter that much because you don't get a cast gravity that much, because holy shit, everyone's taking your tank's taking so much damage, and your healing abilities aren't really up to snuff, that you don't get to cast a whole lot of gravities, honestly. The only times when I really get to cast gravity is like sort of at the tail end of a pull, like as it's ending and most of the stuff is already dead, or if I have light speed up, and then I do feel a little bit more safe being able to throw out some gravities, because I know that I can just quickly throw out a heal if I need to whilst I'm in light speed. But yeah, haven't been able to get many gravity cast off, but it's 130 potency, which is 10 less than Holy, 20 less than Art of War. And the reason for that, I guess, is because it's a targeted spell, so you don't have to be in range. So that's worth losing 20 potency off of Art of War, I guess. And then Holy has that stun, which is the best one, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't know. It's fine. It is what it is. Astrologians are typically always doing less DPS than Scholar and White Mage anyway, so it makes sense. Moving on, Sinistry. Thank goodness Sinistry still does the thing where if you cast it on a target and you're healing that same target that has Sinistry on it, you get that 40% as well. So to kind of demonstrate this, Est. This is the reason why I'm actually out here, by the way, in the field by Titania's Castle, by the way, is because I can show this off. But Est, healing for Benefic 2, that crit, that's a bad example. 2300, 2250. But now I throw on my Sinistry, and then you'll see it's kind of like a regen tick, so it's hard to notice. But you see, there's that 9,000 heal kind of right there. There's that 9,000 again, that crit. So yeah, this honestly, this carried my trash pulls for me. If I didn't have Sinistry and Light Speed, um, I honestly, I don't think I could have gotten through a lot of the trash pulls where my tanks weren't using cooldowns. I really don't think I'd been able to handle it because, yeah, the rest of my abilities on Astrologian are just not good enough. They really aren't. So let's talk about those. First off, Celestial Opposition. Before, this used to be a stun. It also used to increase the buffs that you applied, so it increased the duration of your cards. It also increased the duration of your regens and your shields. It also increased buffs that you applied to yourself, so you could increase Lucid with it. You could increase Largesse with it. Stuff like that, and it was really cool back then. It's unfortunately been changed, so now it's kind of like a healing thing depending on the sect you're in. And my opinion on this is that it is shit. It is terrible. It is bad. This needs to be changed really, really badly. So the thing about Celestial Opposition is that for one thing, its cooldown is way too long, man. 2 minutes for what amounts to, let's see, 100 potency, 60 times 5. That's a 400 potency heal and diurnal sect over 15 seconds, which is the same amount of potency that a size on a 45-second cooldown is doing instantaneously, and also the same amount of potency that an Indom is doing instantaneously, and less than what a Sacred Soul is doing, on top of being able to apply damage reduction while you're standing in it. So yeah, Celestial Opposition in diurnal sense does not compare at all to any ability that the other two healers have. In diurnal sect, or in nocturnal sect rather, it does it does the same 100% potency, but as a shield, and the shield is so weak. It's 150% of the healing, which 150% of a 100 potency heal is nothing. This is going to mitigate nothing. Look how tiny this shield is up here. Look how tiny that is. Look at that. That's nothing. Also, I just realized how much HP my Chocobo has. That's a lot of HP, Chocobo. I didn't know you actually had that much at level 80. Hey, cat. Don't do anything. Don't step on the keyboard, please. Here. Come on. Want to sit in my lap? I'm doing a video right now. I didn't actually know you were in here because the curtain was closed. I didn't know you were on the windowsill. Yeah, you want to jump down? Go ahead. Yeah, there you go. All right. But yeah, Celestial Opposition, it's weak. All right, there's a couple things that need to happen with Celestial Opposition, in my opinion. First off, reduce the cooldown. 100%, you need to reduce this cooldown. It should not be longer than a minute. Honestly, I think if you made it 45 seconds or even 30 seconds, it'd be great. 30 seconds. 30 seconds is probably too much. But if you made it a minute, maybe 45 seconds, perfect. It should not be longer than a minute recast time at all. I'm just saying that right now. But 45 seconds, I think, would be a fantastic spot to put it in. Even, thinking about rationally, if you think about Indom and Sacred Soil being on 30 seconds, it's probably not even that bad. But I guess the balancing factor for that is that you need to use a specific resource in order to get access to that. So since this is just a cooldown, I'd say 45 seconds, perfect spot to put it at. 45-second recast time. Second thing you need to do, you need to increase the effects on these. Honestly, I think if you're gonna keep it being a shield in Nocturnal Sect, you definitely need to increase the initial cure potency of it. Definitely, it needs to be at least like 200, maybe even 250, or even 300, and then have a shield that's maybe. If you have it, I guess the higher you have the healing potency, like the cure potency, the lower the shield goes. But if you want to keep it at 150 potency of a shield, I'd say about 250, 300 cure potency would be decent for that. And then as for the diurnal effects, I think keeping it at 100 instant cure potency is fine. If you want to increase it, that's also fine, but you definitely need to increase the regen so that it is 100 if you're going to keep it at 15 seconds. That way, if you keep it at 100 potency instantaneous and then you add the 100 potency on top of it for 15 seconds, or even an 80 potency on top of that for 80 seconds, for 15 seconds, because then if you make it 80 and then then that equals out to about a 500 potency cure over its duration, right? I can do math. But my family came and took the cat out of the room. But I think that would be fair. 45 seconds on that, and then buffing the effect a little bit, and then also on top of that adding max or max MP percentage HP or a percentage god dang it, I can't speak right now, percentage MP onto this ability as well, so that Astrologians have something like this as well. You can make it 5%, you can make it 10%, but I think that it'd be fair if Astrologians got some ability somewhere that gave them back a portion of their MP back as well. On top of having light speed, I think it would actually kind of even everything out, because scholars, they got that 10% every minute from Aether Flow. White mages, they got their thin air, they got their SIs with that 5%, and then Astrologians, we got light speed, which halves MP costs, and then we could have celestial opposition on a 4 to 5 second cooldown, giving us back like either 5 or 10%. I think 5 would be fine, honestly, at that point, since light speed is already reducing our MP costs by half. So yeah, that's really my ideal change for celestial opposition, is increase the regen to either 80 or 100 potency, keep the cure potency the same in diurnal sect, and then for nocturnal sect, bump up the healing potency to about 250. I think would be actually really good, and then reduce the cast time to 45 seconds, and then add that max MP, 5% max MP on top of that, and then celestial opposition, all of a sudden, good ability. Really useful ability. Earthly Star, I don't think this needs to change. Earthly Star is actually one of the abilities that's still really good. It does a massive amount of cure potency, even if you don't have it set down and have it kind of turn into your stellar explosion. Even if you just do the initial Earthly Star explosion, it's still doing 550 ability healing in an AoE, which is a massive amount. And then 720 in an AoE is also a massive amount. The big problem again is getting people to actually stand in it, which people have a really hard time doing for some reason. I don't know why. Just please, if you see your Earthly Stars, if you see your Asylums, your Sacred Soils, and there's no reason for you to not move into it. Like, if you're not a black mage that needs to stand still, and there's nothing that's going to kill you by actually moving to go stand in it, please come stand in it, please. It helps out your healers, and healers need all the help they can get. But yeah, Earthly Star, fantastic still. I don't think you need to change it. We did lose some DPS on Earthly Star, but again, everyone lost DPS everywhere, so that's not a big deal. Celestial Intersection is kind of a weird one. I actually think that it's fine the way it is. It's really weak, Celestial Intersection, and I like the idea of it, because it basically allows you to tap into your opposite sect once every 30 seconds. So when you're in diurnal sect, you can get a small shield, and then while you're in nocturnal sect, you can get a very small regen. I will say that the shield is vastly much more useful than the pitiful regen you get when you're in nocturnal sect. The regen you get in nocturnal sect is actually it's not that bad. It's you get your 150 initial, and then you get 80 for 5 ticks. So that's what, 550 potency overall, which it's not bad. And the fact that this is on a 30-second cooldown is fine. It's fine. I honestly think it's fine. It's a little weak, but the fact that it's on a 30-second cooldown, I'm willing to kind of forgive its potency, how weak it is. But again, this is really helpful while you're in diurnal sect, by the way, because while you're in diurnal sect, you really have no way of reducing damage other than going and throwing up collective unconscious, which was not practical at all. So being able to kind of have a small shield to kind of throw up is really, really nice, in my opinion. While we talked about it, I kind of skipped over collective unconscious. This needs to get buffed, by the way, because for one thing, this has a recast time of 90 seconds. But the problem what I have with collective unconscious is there's a couple things. When you compare this directly to Sacred Soil, Sacred Soil is just better in every way. It really is, because Sacred Soil reduces 10% damage just like this does. Sacred Soil puts down a regen, which heals 500 potency over its full duration, as long as everyone's standing in it. Collective Unconscious reduces 10% damage, good. Applies a regen, which it's actually applying it to the party members, so that's fair. The duration for the regen is 15 seconds, but it's halved compared to Sacred Soil. Now, I guess the balancing factor that they kind of taking there is that, well, because it's applying to the party members themselves, and as soon as you drop it, they still have that potency. But I mean, again, that's a 250 potency heal if you drop it immediately. Obviously, as long as everyone's standing in it and you're still channeling Collective Unconscious, it's constantly getting refreshed. But still, it doesn't even compare to Sacred Soil. And the fact that you have to literally stand there and do absolutely nothing to cast this, really just no. I think they need to buff up the cure potency of the regen a bit. Bring it back up to, if you bring it up to 100, I would be fine, because then it'd be fair. It'd be the same amount as Sacred Soil, and you could apply it and then drop it as soon as you take the hit that you wanted to mitigate. Or if you just want to apply the regen, then there you go. That's a 500 potency regen. That's actually worth taking the time to apply, and not just nothing. Like before, it wasn't a bad idea if you didn't need Collective Unconscious to just run up next to the tank, pop this up real quick, get the regen rolling, and then immediately drop it. Now it's like barely worth doing. Like I'd never do that anymore because it's barely worth it. Like it's 250 potency heal over 15 seconds. That's nothing. So yeah, I really want Collective Unconscious to get its regen buffed again. That would really help. But other than that, Horoscope is fine. It kind of acts a little like Plenary Indulgence. The problem I have with Horoscope is that if you're looking at it like a Plenary Indulgence type of deal, then it's fine. But if you're kind of trying to compare it to something like a Size or Indomitability, where it's just an ability heal that you kind of have off cooldown, then it's kind of starts to suck a little bit. Because the thing about Horoscope is that if you're just using Horoscope, like first you have to apply it first, so you have to press it twice to even get something out of it. But if you use it without using a Helios or an Aspect of Helios, then you're only getting a 100 potency heal, which is nothing. So you kind of need to throw up a Helios or an Aspect of Helios on top of that, and at that point, then you're only really needing Horoscope if everyone's taking a massive amount of AoE damage, which honestly, to be fair, is a lot of the time. You're taking a lot of the time when you go to use Horoscope, you'll need to use Horoscope because everyone just took that much amount of AoE damage. But yeah, because at that point, if you're only using an Aspected, or if you're only using a Helios, that's 330 spell potency right there, on top of the 400 potency. So that's like 730 potency cure on everybody, which is kind of insane. That, I mean, that's almost the same. That's slightly more than an Earthly Star. And then if you're using it on Nocturnal Aspect of Benefict, or Nocturnal Aspect of Helios rather, then it's actually really good, because in that instance, you're getting kind of a small heal and then a really big shield. So using it with Nocturnal Aspect Benefict is actually really nice. Using it with Diurnal Aspect Benefict is really overkill, but again, sometimes you actually really do need that amount of healing. So Horoscope, I think it's fine. I don't think you need to touch it. When you kind of try to compare it to a Size or a Indomitability, it kind of doesn't really stack up, because you need to put a little bit more work into it in order to get its full potential. But honestly, I think it's fine. I wouldn't mind if its recast got lowered a little bit, honestly, to 45 seconds. I think that'd be really cool, but it's not necessary, in my opinion. It really isn't. The bigger thing I really want to see is Celestial Opposition. This definitely needs to get reworked. It needs to get simultaneously buffed and also have its cast time drastically reduced. And then we get to Neutral Sect, which is just ridiculous. You get to Neutral Sect, and it's just absolutely insane, because you get your Aspect of Benefict. It's doing a massive shield. You get the regen on top of that. You're doing your Aspect of Helios again. You're getting a pretty sizable shield, a lot of regen healing, and it's insane. honestly. And also, it should theoretically work on Celestial Opposition, even though I never make the effort to actually make it to use Celestial Opposition in Neutral Sect, because I honestly, you wouldn't really need it. Yeah, it doesn't work on Neutral Sect even. It'd be really cool if Neutral Sect worked on like things like Celestial Intersection and Celestial Opposition, but they don't, unfortunately. It'd be really cool if that happened, but honestly, it's not needed, because whether or not you're using this on a single target or for party-wide damage, you're not gonna need more than 2 casts of either one, honestly. If you cast your Aspect of Benefic under this, that's a massive shield. That's a massive amount of regen. You're not gonna need to cast it. I mean, you cast it once and then you cast it as the buff's going away, obviously. So you can get that nice shield and regen right as it's going away. And same thing for AOE. It's just that, yeah, it's like it's good. It's really good for AOE situations. I used it a couple times. When I was healing Titania earlier, and it was ridiculous. It's ridiculous the amount of healing this does. On top of having the magic potency on top of it, it's just getting both sect of abilities and then having that magic potency on top of it is just, it's insane. It really does hammer home the fact that I really wish that Largesse was still in the game, and that Neutral Sect and Temperance and Dissipation were just their own things that didn't have anything to do with healing magic potency. They just gave, like, Neutral Sect lowered the cooldown maybe to like 90 seconds, and then it made it so that we get both effects. That'd be really cool. Temperance, just maybe give a little bit of healing potency to kind of, I feel like you need a little bit of healing potency on Temperance when you cast that for White Mage, but and also for Dissipation as well. You definitely need a little bit of healing magic potency on that, maybe like 10% when you cast that. But really, it just, the fact that we're doing so much less healing, honestly, in Shadowbringers compared to what we would have been doing in Stormblood, I think it would have been a fantastic change if we had Largesse and all of this. But the effects of the healing magic potency were either removed or reduced for your Neutral Sects, your Temperance, and your Dissipation. But yeah, in terms of healing, we need more. We definitely need more. So yeah, the big things, kind of recapping on what I really would like to see changed when it comes to Astrologian healing. First thing, definitely Celestial Opposition needs to get buffed, needs to get its recast reduced. Collective Unconscious needs to get its regen buffed. Definitely Celestial Opposition, I think, or Celestial Intersection rather, I think is actually fine. Earthly Star, I think, is also actually really fine. Sinistry, I wouldn't mind if Sinistry got its cooldown actually reduced to 90 seconds. That would really help with our healing in particular. Also wouldn't mind if Lightspeed got its cooldown reduced, but since Lightspeed has that Hyper Lightspeed trait that Essential Dignity just reduces its cooldown by 10%, or 10 seconds rather, then I don't think Lightspeed actually needs it after all. I actually think it wouldn't be too bad if they took all of our healing magic potency skills on all 3 healers and just reduced the recast time. Temperance and Neutral Sect, reduce those to 90 seconds. I think that would actually go a long way to kind of helping us keep up with healing. Although, again, max level healing, it's actually not that bad, because when you get to max level healing, when you get to primal fights, you get to your raid fights, it's a lot more predictable, the healing. And it's really what we needed that healing for was for the leveling dungeons. And Neutral Sect and Temperance are both at level 80. So reducing the recast time would really help in that manner. And when we go to heal dungeons, it's not so prevalent now, but as we kind of go along and we get more item level, we're just gonna start stomping through those dungeons, and it's not gonna, and the amount of healing we're gonna be able to output, the amount of DPS also that that DPS are going to be output to make those pulls a lot shorter, is going to go a long way to kind of making healing feel a lot less shitty in max level content. But yeah, that for healing on Astrologian, I think their abilities really do need to get buffed, and also their spells. I feel like you could do with adding that extra 100 potency onto Aspect of Helios, honestly, for the regen. just for Diurnal Sect. I think 100 potency for the barrier is it's fine, I guess, for for Nocturnal Aspect Helios, but it'd be really cool if we got that, but it's not necessary. The 30 potency extra on Helios is nice. It'd be really cool if we got another 50 potency on Benefic and Physic for Scholar, just to kind of even that out. I think that'd be really cool. I actually wouldn't mind also getting a little bit more potency on our Cure 2 and our Benefic as well, for both White Mage and Astrologian. Just a little bit more potency, like maybe another 50 potency wouldn't hurt, in my opinion. We need something. With the absence of largesse, we definitely need to start looking at our healing potencies and sort of bumping them up so that just in general, the amount of healing we can do is a little bit higher. So I don't know. I think asking for slight potency increases on some of the things that we're using a little bit more often, in exchange for not having largesse, is not too much to ask for, in my opinion. But we'll kind of have to wait and see. Now, we kind of covered the healing aspect of Astrologian. Now we kind of need to talk about the cards for a little bit. So let's get into that. Let's get into the cards. Honestly, I don't really have anything new to say about the cards that I didn't already say in that video when I talked about the NA Media Tour, because nothing really changed about the cards in between now and then. The cards, as I said, are not very satisfying to use as the Astrologian. All the DPS that are actually getting the cards are totally fine with these changes because it's just flat DPS, and no one's going to complain about that. You know, if anyone was actually on Astrologian to give anyone cards, because no one really wants to play this job because it's not doing too well in heals right now. But I imagine with job adjustments, as long as the job adjustments are actually like bring Astrologian back with the heals, we're gonna see a lot more Astrologians leveling well, Astrologian, so we'll get to see a lot more cards in action. But when it comes to the cards, I don't really have anything new to say about the cards, really. It's just the balance. It's just a weaker balance, but just changed. I will say that gathering your seals is kind of annoying because you need to be in battle to gather your seals. I get why that's a thing. Like when it comes to Aetherflow and not being able to use that outside of battle, I just kind of look at that and go, what kind of advantage could you get by just being able to cast Aetherflow before the fight starts? You know what I mean? Like, wow, you get a free Excog, you get a free Sacred Soil, and then you have to burn one real quick before you pop your next Aetherflow to get it cooling down, right? That's it. That's all the real benefit you get from that. But when it comes to using your cards, I understand why you can't use them outside of battle, because then you get those crazy people, those crazy parties that want your Astrologians to literally sit there and get divination ready and preps right for the start of the pull. You know what I mean? So I can understand why you can't get seals outside of battle, but it is really annoying to kind of deal with, because there are those times when you're just getting into the battle and you're kind of in that transition phase where you're in battle, where it says you're in battle but the game doesn't quite register you're in battle yet, and then you throw your card up and it didn't quite register. That has happened to me way too many times. It's really annoying. So if anything, I just kind of wish that they would kind of fix that a little bit. I don't know how they could possibly fix that, because that's really just a server type of thing. Like it's really kind of the server checking to see if are you in battle. I don't know, are you? So it's like, yeah, I don't really see them being able to kind of change that and making it any better. So that's really just kind of something that I and every other Astrologian is going to have to kind of adjust to. I will say that getting your seals is fairly easy. In fact, most of the time with the assistance of sleeve draw, getting your seals is usually you get it within a minute of divination cooling down, almost 100% of the time, because there's just so many cards and you have so many redraws that it's like, yeah, you're gonna get your seals pretty fast. It does feel kind of shitty when you're in that situation when you have an all melee party or an all range party. All range parties are actually kind of the thing right now, because everyone is on range DPS right now, physical range DPS right now, leveling their dancers, their machinists, and casters have always been popular. And I've actually seen very few melee DPS lately, and because melee DPS are already kind of, there's less melee DPS compared to, like, there's only 4 melee DPS compared to 7 casters and physical DPS combined. yeah, it's not working out very well. It's not balanced very well, is what I'm trying to say. But it feels really shitty in those situations when you don't have a ranged DPS and a melee DPS in order to kind of give the cards to. Although, to be fair, usually there's one DPS who's actually outperforming the other one, in which case I just give them all the cards anyway, regardless if it's a ranged card or a DP or a melee card, regardless, because that's how percentages and numbers work. Is because if someone's doing more DPS, then giving the person who's doing 8k DPS a 3% DPS increase is going to do more for you than giving the guy who's doing 5,000 DPS a 6% DPS increase. You know what I mean? And that's how it goes. But I will say that sleeve draw, it doesn't feel very good to use. I will say that. It gets its job done. So I don't actually think sleeve draw is going to get changed at all, because it does what it's meant to do. It gives you more draws. But I will say it feels really shitty trying to use this in the heat of the moment, because it just feels like falling behind whenever you use sleeve draw. And it just feels like you're falling behind, because your draw goes off cooldown so fast. You have to decide what to do with your cards really fast and use them. At least your first 2 cards after you use sleeve draw anyway. So and when you're kind of just like when you're when you're not having to do a whole lot, it's not that bad. But when you're in the heat of the moment, when you're in a large dungeon pool and you're just trying your best to keep your tank alive, or you're in a very intensive healing intensive fight and you're just trying to keep the party alive, trying to use sleeve draw in that moment is just my brain explodes. It's just I'm not ready for it, and in those moments it feels really shitty because it just feels like you're falling behind. Just like, yeah, so sleeve draw just doesn't feel satisfying to use in those particular moments, but that's really just kind of a personal player thing, and it's going to vary from player to player how sleeve draw feels to use in those situations. But yeah, it just doesn't feel good in my opinion. Actually, I wouldn't mind if sleeve draw got reworked so that it just automatically gave you a card that gives you a seal that isn't already in your gauge, and that's what sleeve draw would be. And I wouldn't mind that change, but again, I don't think sleeve draw is going to change, because it serves its purpose exactly as it's intended to, and so I don't think it's actually going to change, and that's fine. It's really just something that I and all of the other Astrologians are going to have to get used to using, and not kind of panicking and sort of sitting on that. I will say though, the fact that draw and play are on different buttons is really good, because it means that you can actually hold on to your card for as long as you want, and as long as you're not cutting into your next draw cast, which is only really an issue if you're using sleeve draw, then you can hold on to your card and decide what to do with it whenever you want, which is a good thing, because when you're trying to fish for that last seal, sometimes you're pressing buttons, like you're pressing so many off global cooldown buttons, because you're pressing your sleeve draws, right? You're pressing your sleeve draws, you're drawing your cards, you're like, oh no, I didn't get what I want. You're using all 3 of your redraws, you still don't get the seal you want, so you're like, all right, well now I gotta use Minor Arcana. Then you gotta play the card. You gotta give it to someone else. You gotta get your next draw card drawing. It's not the seal you want. You gotta Minor Arcana again. Give it to somebody else. You do your 3rd card. Maybe you don't get your seal again. Then you have to Minor Arcana. Give it to somebody else. So it's like you're doing a lot of ability usage. So it's like sometimes when you're trying to get that last seal, or even just your 2nd seal, sometimes it's a nightmare, the amount of abilities you kind of have to use to interact with your cards. Somehow, despite how they've kind of simplified and taken all the complexity out of the cards, they've somehow managed to make it so that, because it's RNG and kind of a slot machine type of deal, that you're actually interacting with your cards more, which is kind of a weird feeling to kind of deal with. Now, another thing that's kind of weird on Astrologian is that Undraw is still in the game. For some reason, I don't understand why. There's never any reason to use Undraw. In fact, you should never even, Undraw. It's on my hotbar right now. No, it's not. I took it off my hotbar. Never mind. Yeah, Undraw. Don't put it on your hotbar. Shouldn't be in the game anymore. You know why? Because you should always just use your cards. And when you get to level 50 and you're trying to get your seals for divination, if you ever get a card and you already have the seal for it, use Minor Arcana. That's what it's there for. It's for when you have your seal and you need to use the card but don't want to overwrite your seals, then that's what Minor Arcana is for. Don't use on draw. Don't put on draw on your bar. You don't need it. Just get rid of it. Get rid of on draw. Don't put it on your hot bar. It doesn't need to be in the game. On Tuesday, just get rid of it because it doesn't need to be in the game anymore. You know what we do need though for Samurai? This is a healer video, but I'm going to talk about Samurai. You know what we do need? We need empty Sen for Samurai. So for dungeons and for alliance raids, so that when we get to a boss and we have a really weird amount of Sen, we don't have to like do a weird like a Tenkagoken right at the start, so that we can get to our Higanbana and not mess up our opener. You know what I mean? That's what we need. We don't need undraw though. One thing I will say also is that it's kind of weird how your seals kind of fill up. The way it is that it goes from left to right, right? So you'll get a seal like let me get in battle so I can actually show this off a bit. So you get a seal, and then it goes from left to right. So you get that one, and then this one, bam. But the thing is, since it goes from left to right, as soon as you use this, you're gonna actually get rid of the celestial that I have, and it pushes that one off, and then it gives you that instead. So it's kind of weird how that works. I thought that when we were gonna use the seals, okay, now I have to actually kill this thing. But I thought when we were gonna get the seals, that if you already had the seal in your gauge and you used the card that gave you that seal by accident, that it just wouldn't give you the seal. But what it does is it actually overwrites what's in your gauge from left to right. So you can actually put yourself into a really bad situation if you accidentally use a seal that you already have in your gauge, where you have two in a row and then you have to get a very specific one in order to kind of kick that one off. It doesn't happen very often, and if you're playing Astrologian correctly, then it shouldn't ever actually be a problem, but it's just kind of a weird thing. I thought when we would use a seal and you already had the seal, it just wouldn't give you the seal, but no, it's just that it overwrites it. So you have to kind of overwrite your seals, which again, if you're playing Astrologian properly and you're using minor arcana on cards where you already have the seals for those, then you shouldn't ever run into that issue. It's really only kind of just sometimes I've done it just kind of by accident because I didn't realize I didn't press minor arcana because it didn't go off, and I just didn't press it, and then I just ended up throwing the card out, and it's like, whoops, now I have two of the same seal in my gauge. So yeah, kind of sucks that can happen. It can also be like, you know, you have all three of your seals ready to go, and then you accidentally do that, and now all of a sudden, well, now you have to go and get that third seal again before you can use divination. But yeah, I will say divination's cooldown is kind of really long. I wouldn't mind if this got reduced, honestly, because it's 6% damage, I guess, on the whole party for 15 seconds. I mean, when you look at technical step, that's 5% on the whole party for what, 20 seconds, right? No, 15 seconds. Technical step, let me check real quick. Technical step, this is Bart. Technical step, I think is 15 seconds. Right, yeah, so 15 seconds as well. But this is on 2-minute cooldown, so, and it's also on a DPS, so it's like, you know, it's because this is on a healer, I don't know. I think 3 minutes is really long, but I get it. I get why it's 3 minutes. It'd be nice if it got a cooldown reduction, but I don't think it's going to. Honestly, I think the cards are fine, and by fine I mean I'll deal with them. You know, I'll deal with them. They're fine for what they do. I think the card system works as it's intended to work. I don't think it needs to be changed in any way. I think the cards, as the developers have intended to kind of rework the card system, it works as intended, in my opinion, and everything that interacts with your card works as intended. So I don't think they actually need to change anything about the card system. I think that's actually not the issue with Astrologian right now. The issue is its healing. Its healing just isn't high enough to kind of compared to the other two healers, in my opinion. I think it definitely needs some buffs to its healing, and honestly, I think all the healers could use with a small buff to their healing in particular, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't know what they're gonna do to the healers, because you know, I can manage on White Mage and Scholar. Astrologian, it's a bit more of a struggle for Astrologian, but you know, when I was doing Titania on Astrologian earlier, it was fine. You know, I could get through it, but a lot of that also has to do with the fact that the other healer, you know, having another healer there that isn't an Astrologian, having their abilities and their heals on top of mine, it makes it a lot easier to kind of swallow that. But when it comes to doing solo content, or rather just healing by yourself in a 4-man content as an Astrologian, they really do need a bit of a buff there, and by a bit of a buff I mean a pretty big buff to their healing. So healing is kind of the issue on Astrologian right now, which I didn't think I have to be saying that, but yeah, the cards, they're fine. I don't like the card system, but I'll deal with them, and I'll deal with them. The card system, as the developers have intended it, works fine. It's the healing on Astrologian that really needs to be reworked. And yeah, so I think I just kind of made a nearly 2-hour video talking about all 3 of the healers. And my thoughts were kind of all over the place because, again, I didn't script this out, and I've been up for like 30 hours because I stayed up all night. Wanted to get this video out. And yeah, those are kind of my thoughts. I'm gonna do another video going over all of the job adjustments and my thoughts on that when we get the patch notes for patch 4.05, which will be coming out after tonight's maintenance. Well, tonight being July 29th. So July 30th, patch 4.05. Gonna go over those job adjustments as well. I highly suspect we're gonna be seeing a lot of changes to healers and Astrologian in particular, because that's definitely the one that people are definitely complaining about the most. There's also some changes that I'm kind of looking forward to on other jobs as well. The tanks might see some adjustments there. I know tanks are kind of like in a really weird spot balancing wise. There's kind of some uneven ground between the tanks, but I'm not a tank main, so I'm not going to really discuss that in this video. Range DPS, I'm also keeping an eye out, because those are the jobs I'm kind of playing the most right now. Ninja is another job that I'm really keeping an eye out, because I really feel like Ninja, it's one of the more difficult and complex jobs in the game, and for the amount of work you have to put into it, I really do think that ninjas kind of need to get reworked and a bit of a buff there. But yeah, there's a lot of jobs I'm looking forward to kind of seeing the adjustments for. So hopefully we see a lot of adjustments, see some buffs, maybe some nerfs. I like, ups and downs here and there. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what we kind of get for all of the jobs. And there's 17 jobs, so there's a lot to kind of look forward to in those adjustments. So yeah, I'm gonna end the video here, because it's dinner time. I'm hungry. I've been talking for almost 2 hours. I've been up for 30 hours. It's time for me to get off and go get something to eat. So thank you all for watching. I'm very humbled that you wanted to hear my opinions on the healers, and I'm actually looking forward to the changes and where I'm going to be healing next. I'm really enjoying White Mage and Scholar right now. Astrologian, it's really not there. Between the weak healing and the change to the cards, I'm not feeling the love for Astrologian right now. But maybe after the job adjustments, I might like Astrologian a bit more. But as it stands now, I'm probably not going to be playing Astrologian that much this expansion. But again, we'll have to see with the adjustments. But yeah, that's all I gotta say on those matters. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of your hair now. Thank you all for watching. My voice is going out. Sayonara. Bye bye.